If humanity can travel further than ever with Artemis II, why do we still struggle to answer the simplest questions about ourselves? Imagine a simple moment. You are standing alone under the night sky. No phone, no noise, nothing pulling you away from the present. Just you and the universe. The stars above remain silent. They don't respond. They don't offer any sign that you are being heard. And yet it is that silence that makes humanity think more deeply. Not everyday thoughts, but questions that don't have immediate answers. Who are we? Where do we fit in this vast picture? And why are we able to question our own existence? What's remarkable is that in a universe so vast it feels almost infinite, human beings don't just exist. We reflect. We question. And that is what makes this journey unique. For thousands of years, humans have looked up at the sky, not just to observe, but to search. Ancient civilizations used the stars to navigate. They tracked time, seasons, and life through the movement of the heavens. But beneath all of that, there was a deeper need. The need to understand, not just the external world, but ourselves. That is why, alongside science, faith has always existed. Not as opposition, but as another way of approaching the same question. Science explains what is happening. Faith explores why it matters. Today, humanity has gone further than ever before. We are no longer just standing beneath the sky. We are entering it. Modern space missions, especially Artemis II, mark a major shift in human history. For the first time in decades, humans are returning to deep space exploration, not just for science, but opening the door to bigger questions about our future. Artemis II is more than a mission. It represents humanity stepping beyond familiar limits. But here's what's fascinating. The further we move away from Earth, the more we return to ancient questions. What are we truly searching for? Knowledge? Life beyond Earth? Or a sense that we belong to something greater? Because no matter how advanced our technology becomes, no matter how far Artemis II or future missions take us, there is still something science cannot fully answer. Meaning. A person can understand the structure of stars, yet still feel lost. Someone can follow the journey of Artemis II and still ask, what is my place in all of this? And that is where another journey begins. Not outward, but inward. A journey of awareness. A journey of understanding. Because perhaps the biggest question is not, how far can we go into space? But rather, how deeply do we understand ourselves? When humanity first left Earth, it marked a revolutionary step. But today, with missions like Artemis II, that journey is no longer just a scientific milestone. It becomes a mirror, a reflection of how humanity sees itself. Artemis II represents something deeper, not just how far we can go, but what we are thinking as we go further. Because throughout history, every scientific advancement has led to bigger questions. Not just what can we do, but what should we do? And at that point, humanity often turns back to older sources of insight. In the Bible, there are no descriptions of spacecraft or advanced technology, yet it asks questions that feel incredibly relevant today. Who are we? How should we live? What truly matters? What's fascinating is that while Artemis II represents the future, the questions it raises are the same ones humanity has been asking for centuries. Technology evolves, but human nature remains. We still search for meaning. We still seek our place. We still want to know that our journey matters. And this is where science and faith begin to intersect. They are no longer in conflict. They complement each other. One expands our physical reach. The other deepens our awareness. Artemis II takes us into space, but at the same time it reminds us of something important. We bring ourselves with us, our thoughts, our questions, our limitations. And if we don't change how we see things, then no matter how far we travel, we may still repeat the same patterns. This is why many people explore the idea of the Holy Spirit, not as something abstract or distant, but as a way to better understand inner clarity. The Holy Spirit, as many describe it, is not a loud voice. It's subtle, a sense of direction, a quiet clarity, an inner awareness that guides decisions. In a world filled with information and speed, this becomes more valuable than ever. Because the problem today is not a lack of knowledge, it's an overload of choices. Too many paths, too many perspectives, too much noise. And within that context, the journey of space exploration through Artemis II becomes more than an outward mission. It becomes a trigger for inward reflection. Where am I going? What am I living for? Do the things I pursue truly matter? The Bible may not describe space in scientific terms, but it speaks directly to something science cannot easily measure: how humans think, choose, and live. And when these two paths meet, advanced missions like Artemis II, and the deeper reflections found in the Bible, and the concept of the Holy Spirit, we begin to see something clearly. The greatest journey of humanity may not be traveling into space, but understanding ourselves along the way. The further humanity moves into space, the more we begin to realize something simple, yet difficult to accept. The universe does not explain us. There are no clear signs, no direct messages, no answers to our biggest questions. But that doesn't make the journey meaningless. Instead, it pushes us in another direction. Not outward, but inward. Artemis II is a major scientific achievement. It shows that humanity can push beyond physical limits. But at the same time, it raises a deeper question. If we can travel so far, why do so many people still feel lost in their own lives? This is no longer a scientific question. It's a question of awareness. Someone can follow Artemis II, understand its trajectory, its technology, and its mission, and still ask, where am I going in my own life? That is where the Bible becomes more relevant than ever, not as a book that explains the universe, but as a mirror that reflects humanity. Within the Bible, there is a recurring idea. Humans are not only meant to exist, but to be aware. Aware of choices, aware of actions, aware of how we impact the world around us. And what's fascinating is this: what we search for out there may be what we are overlooking within. We search for life across the universe, yet rarely observe how we are living each day. We search for answers across millions of kilometers, yet ignore the questions within our own minds. And that is why the idea of the Holy Spirit becomes meaningful. Not as something distant, but as something deeply personal. The Holy Spirit is not something you see, it is something you experience. It's that moment when you face a decision and you know what is right, even without explanation. It's when you pause in the middle of a busy day and realize something needs to change. It's when clarity appears, not from outside, but from within. In a world where everything is measured, analyzed, and optimized, these experiences can easily be overlooked. But in reality, they shape human life more than anything else. Artemis II shows us what humanity is capable of. But the Bible and the idea of the Holy Spirit remind us of what humanity is responsible for. Capability can take us far, but awareness determines whether we are moving in the right direction. And without that awareness, no matter how advanced our technology becomes, we may continue repeating the same patterns, possibly at a larger scale, faster, and harder to control. That is why the most important journey may not be the one into space, but the one within. Because when a person understands what they are doing, why they are doing it, and where they are going, then every step, whether on Earth or beyond, becomes meaningful. There is something people often don't realize. We are not just living, we are constantly choosing. Every thought, every action, every decision is a direction. It may seem small, it may feel insignificant, but over time, it shapes everything. Artemis II is the result of thousands of decisions like that. It is not just a single launch moment. It represents decades of research, testing, adjustment, and commitment. Every engineer, every scientist, every calculation is part of that journey. And here's what's fascinating. The way humanity builds a mission like Artemis II is not that different from how we build our lives. Step by step, choice by choice. Not always clear, but always moving forward. In the Bible, there is a simple yet powerful idea. Humans are given the ability to choose, not to control everything, but to shape who they become. And this becomes more important than ever in a world filled with opportunities, but also distractions. We have more information than ever before, more options than ever before, and yet we feel more lost than ever. That is where inner awareness becomes essential. The Holy Spirit, as many understand it, is not a force that controls you. It is a quiet reminder, a sense of clarity that says this is right. It's not always easy to follow. It's not always convenient, but it becomes clear when you truly pay attention. The challenge is, most people don't. We are pulled by speed, by work, by pressure, by expectations. And slowly, we lose the ability to recognize our own direction. Artemis II may take humanity into space, but it cannot decide who we become. Technology creates possibilities, but awareness determines how we use them. And this is the key. Awareness does not come from outside. It comes from pausing to think, pausing to observe, pausing to ask, why am I doing this? In the Bible, there is a clear approach, not changing the world instantly, but starting with ourselves. Small decisions, consistent actions. And when enough people do that, change happens naturally. The Holy Spirit, in this sense, does not act for us. It helps us see more clearly. Clearly what is right, clearly what needs to change, clearly what step comes next. And that is where everything begins. Not in space, not in technology, but within each person. Artemis II may be a step forward for humanity, but the real progress always starts inside. There is a clear paradox in the human journey. We can go further than ever before, but that doesn't mean we understand ourselves any better. Artemis II is a powerful demonstration of human capability. We can leave Earth, cross the atmosphere, and move deeper into space, into places that once existed only in imagination. But the biggest question remains, does going further help us live better? Because if we look back, history is not just a story of progress. It is also a story of repetition. The same mistakes, the same conflicts, the same unconscious decisions. The only difference is, today we have more powerful tools, faster, more efficient, and capable of creating bigger consequences. So the real issue is not what we can do. It is what we choose to do with that ability. In the Bible, there is a simple but profound idea. Humans are not defined by what they have, but by how they use it. And this has never been more relevant. Artemis II is not just an achievement. It is a reminder that we are entering a stage where physical limits are gradually being removed. But the limits of awareness, if not expanded, may become the greatest barrier. This is where the idea of the Holy Spirit, as many understand it, becomes deeply meaningful. not as an abstract concept, but as something present in everyday life. A quiet reminder to pause before deciding, to think before acting, to look beyond immediate gain. In a world moving at incredible speed, those moments of pause may be the only thing that keeps us aligned. Because the most dangerous thing is not going the wrong way. It is moving very fast, in a direction we never truly understood. Artemis II will continue its mission. Humanity will continue exploring. Technology will continue evolving. But the question for each individual remains, where are you going? Not in space, but in your own life. What are you pursuing? What are you choosing every single day? And if you pause for just a moment, does your direction feel right? The Bible does not demand perfection, but it calls for awareness. Awareness of choices, awareness of consequences, awareness of the path we are walking. And the Holy Spirit, as many describe it, does not instantly change your life. It helps you see clearly what needs to change. And perhaps that is what matters most. Not how far we can go, but whether we are willing to look within as we move forward. The universe remains the same. Vast, silent, unchanging. Artemis II will continue its mission, taking humanity further into space. More missions will follow. New technologies will emerge. Humanity will continue to advance. But one thing remains constant. The questions: who are we? Where are we going? What truly matters? Science helps us understand how the universe works. But the deepest questions always lead back to ourselves. In the Bible, not every question is answered directly, but it offers a way to reflect on how we live. And when people begin to reflect, they begin to change. The Holy Spirit, as many understand it, does not create instant transformation. It brings awareness of what needs to change. And sometimes that awareness alone is already a powerful step forward. Artemis II may represent progress for humanity, but real progress for each individual always begins within. From the journey of Artemis II, from reflections in the Bible, and from the way many people understand the Holy Spirit, there are a few practical lessons. Pause before moving forward. Going faster doesn't always mean going better. Sometimes, slowing down brings clarity. Listen to yourself. In a world full of noise, take time to understand your inner thoughts. Ask better questions. The right questions are often more powerful than quick answers. Pay attention to small choices. Life is shaped not by one big moment, but by thousands of small decisions. Understand that the journey continues. Just like Artemis II is one step in a much larger mission, your life is an ongoing process. If this video made you think, leave one sentence below. I believe there's no right or wrong answer. Just be honest. And if you want to explore deeper questions about the universe, the Bible, and your inner journey, subscribe and stay with us.